This, my friends, is the Atomi Alpha, a relatively new urban suburban e-scooter from a relatively new brand. It's relying on looks, lots of LED lighting, and I do mean lots of LED lighting, competitive pricing, mod cons, and of course performance to set it apart from the exploding e-mobility market. So, do I think so after spending a month or so with the Alpha? Should you put this on your Christmas wish list? Let's quickly find out after these messages. That way. Whoosh. The Atomi Alpha retails for $650 and right now it's $200 off on your website. If you want one, snag it. It's a pretty good deal for what it is. Also $650, according to the specs, is a 650 watt motor in here, but I'll talk more about that. I think that's just peak, and I think it usually runs 350 watts on normal usage. And back here you can see it's a really nice, it's a plastic mud flap, but it's really well integrated into the design. Back here you have pivot suspension right here on this pivot point on both sides. In the past early models or early production batches, this rubber flap would just pop off and the adhesive wasn't strong, but from the time I've gotten it, like almost a month now, this thing has stayed put. Here we have LED blinkers, pretty nice, LED brake lights, and also tail lights at night. You can see it's on right now. Same thing on this side. The tires are also 9-inch tubeless, so they don't puncture. And you can see right here at the front more lights, LED headlight, not super bright, and also this really cool LED strip down the steering column, really cool stuff. And again, the front tires, same thing. There's no disc brakes, as you probably noticed, and it's only a single motor setup, of course, due to the power. And thankfully, the refuel tabs, the valves are nice and short. And back here we have this really robust safety lock for the steering column. Really nice stuff, very solid and really well made. Even when it's disconnected, there's nothing loose. You can definitely trust this thing to hold it together, and I really like how neat everything is. It blends right into the control panel and everything. And by the way, the LCD is right here. It's kind of hard. You can see even direct sunlight right now. It's kind of hard to see. I wish this was like a dual reflective kind of screen. It would be nice. Power button, and also when you cycle this thing, depending on your taps and holes and whatever, it cycles through different modes. We'll talk more about that in a second. And it also doubles up the same functions in the app for the most part. Throttle is right here. Indicators are right here, and this is the locking mechanism for when you fold the handles down, and a really dinky little bell. Single brake right here is drum brakes, as I mentioned before, and there is a e-brake at the back for assisted braking. It's not regenerative at all. And one of the main selling points of Atomi's, I'm not sure if you can see that, it's a built-in bicycle lock, which is really nice. It's not the most secure, it's not the thickest, but it's long enough to wrap around any pole, and then you can lock it in there with whatever customized locking combination you want. Here's a little story. I accidentally had this set straight out of the box, so I didn't know what the code was, and then I accidentally locked it and I didn't know what to do. And thankfully I was able to figure out how to manually find what the combination is. You don't have to go through like 0 to 999. There's really a quick way, just Google it. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but overall the build quality of this thing is really nice. Everything blends well together. I really like it. Oh, one more thing I need to show you. Let's flip this over. On its side here, you can see the kickstand and also the charging port. Oh, they sprayed right here. It's not fully painted right there. This right here is a whole light bar. It's more like it surrounds the edges, but it's really nice at night. And I really like how it looks and how you can customize it in the app as well. I think Atomi did its best keeping the design and final assembly of the Alpha neat, with components that blend physically and visually into each other, like how the taillight and the rear mudguard visually flows into the deck, or the tidiness of the cockpit area and the controls, or how the strong locking mechanism looks like it's part of the body rather than just an afterthought. Even the headlight isn't some like ugly protuberance that you find on other scooters. With this scooter, it's all about the curves and there's no sharp edges. The only faux pas for me would be the LCD display. It's a little bit on the small side and it's also poorly angled. Plus, the round lower front left-right reflectors, they look somewhat out of place. Although it doesn't possess any front suspension, I'll tell you what, this scooter rides smooth, man. The air-filled 9-inch tires definitely add to the ride comfort without adding too much wiggliness to the steering track. And of course, abrupt cracks or undulations in the road will send jolts through the handlebar, but think about it, it could have been so much rougher if it weren't for these tires. Stabilization off on the camera, and let's see how bumpy the ride is. The roads are okay, it's relatively smooth, but there are a couple of bumps. And then back into, the brakes are heating up pretty good. Now we're on gravel. This is pretty much what you're seeing is pretty much what my hands are dealing with right now. The rears are really absorbing all the bumps really nicely. That was a small leap right there, pretty nice. This one is bumpy. This baseball diamond is really bumpy. Hard pack pretty much. For its size, it's actually relatively lightweight. 30 pounds is not something you want to carry too far though, but it's perfectly fine for going up a few flights of stairs or when lifting it over the bumper and then loading it into the trunk of your car. As a kid, my parents always reminded me to make sure that traffic can easily see you when you're out riding your bike. Great advice. With scooters, the same rule applies, but instead of having you buy additional strobe lights, to attach to the back of your helmet or whatever, the Alpha has already got you covered. They are multi-mode underfloor lighting that cast a strong glow on the road in the dark, the decently bright high-mounted headlight, the long vertical RGB strip at the front, and the brake light and indicator lamps, all combined. In the daytime, they're good enough even under bright sunlight. But these literally shine after dark, guys. And seriously, if other people still don't notice you with the Alpha's high-vis lightworks, they're probably blind and are better off living in a cave or something. The Atomi app kinda surprised me here. Normally, whenever a new tech company says, hey, we have an app for that, I imagine questionable development, cringy graphics, clunky experience, but shock of shocks, guys, this app is clean. Easy to navigate, it's minimalist in a good way, kinda like the Alpha itself. Customizing functions and turning features on and off are quick and easy through the app. Now, as a redundancy, you can change most of the scooter settings directly with the power button on the bike itself, but you'll learn quickly that becomes an exercise in patience, like having to remember, was it 5 taps or 7 taps to turn on cruise control? Stopping distances on flat ground or when the brakes are cool are pretty spot on. However, barrel down any kind of slope or hill at speed and you'll start wishing Atomi had slapped 2 brakes on or at least replaced that front drum brake with a disc. But the cool thing about scooters is thankfully you can just pop 1 or 2 feet off and just stop faster that way. I do wish the indicators were more instantaneous because these are safety things. There is a delay, like between pressing the button to the thing activating or even to the audio indicator. It's about a second and a half. I wish like when I press it, when I need it, it comes on, but as it is, it doesn't. Next up is the charging port location. The port is first of all hard to reach and its low position also could cause water ingress if you don't properly seal it with the flip-up rubber cap. Another negative is that tall users above say 5'10" will lament the non-adjustable handlebar height. Be also careful not to be fooled or confused by the 650 watt motor rating because that's the peak power, guys. Most of the time it feels more like 300 or 350 watts. And I've also noticed because of that when subjecting the Alpha with a heavy load over long periods of time, like riding up lots of hills or doing frequent stop and goes or going through high friction sections like wet grass, it forces the motor into 650 watt output more often, which quickly leads to overheating. And so when that happens, the system goes into heat protection mode, drastically limiting the power you get until the hub can cool down again. In and of itself, the protection mode is great, but I wish the motor was stronger to begin with because heavier riders on higher angle terrain will definitely feel the scooter struggle. It's not fun at all. And then after that, you become self-aware and then you're like, geez, I'm fat.
I'll tell you what, this is one smooth riding e-scooter, and not just in ride comfort, but also in its acceleration and stopping abilities. And the LEDs are just as much for safety as they are for the light show, and I get so many compliments for it. And thank goodness the primary controls are easy to operate, performance like speed and range is strong, but it does fade a little as ride weight and road angle increases, which is, expected. And of course, there are some hiccups like the poorly angled display, there's no fast charging, non-adjustable handle height, and one of the weakest kickstands of all time. Like, you merely have to stare at it and it'll collapse. This kickstand has a harder time staying upright than a two-legged dog. Sorry, two-legged dogs. So there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this. Remember to show your support, thumbs up if you like this video, and subscribe if you like to see more videos like this. Check out my playlist, share this with your friends, and remember to do something loving and kind for somebody in this world, because guess what? If you haven't seen the news, the world needs it more than ever, and it starts with you. I love you all very much. Peace out and God bless. Whoosh.